chances are they may need financial assistance, which is why today's topic is so on point. Over the last few years, college fees have risen significantly. According to the College Board, the average cost of tuition and fees for in-state students at public four-year institutions for the 23-24 academic year was approximately $10,560, which I know is not even close for some universities. And private institutions can cost students approximately $38,000. So financial aid is a huge help for both students and their parents. Proper planning and understanding of financial options can help families avoid substantial debt, which is, critical considering the student loan debt in the US has surpassed 1.7 trillion. By understanding how financial aid works, parents can help their children make the most out of resources available, including scholarships, grants, and favorable loan terms. That is why we brought an expert to help us better understand the process. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Diana Medina. Hello, Diana. For more than 2 decades, Diana has dedicated her career to helping students. She currently serves as financial aid counselor and student employment program coordinator at her alma mater, Cal State University, Northridge, or CSUN. Her mission as a counselor is centered on equipping college students with the right tools and support that are essential for achieving academic excellence. But before we jump into our conversation, you know what? I'm gonna skip the poll, Deanna, because I know you have, very important, tips to share, and I want to make sure that we get through all of it. So, please join me in, and I'm handing over the program to you, and join me in welcoming Diana. Bienvenida.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for that introduction. And this is true. I've been in financial aid for over 20 years. I currently serve in my alma mater, so this is where I grew up. I consider my job my second home. I work with students every day and with families, and where our university is situated, we are situated in communities of low income. So the majority of our students do require assistance to help them pay for college. As you mentioned, tuition costs have skyrocketed over the years. And for most families, when they look at that tuition sticker price, they think, well, this is not something I can afford. So what are some of the things that we as financial aid office can offer our students? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and start off with our first question that I think most families are, well, what application do I need to fill out to get access to this financial aid that we hear so much about? So the primary application is called the FAFSA, but that stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And this is an application that every year that students are planning to attend college will need to submit. Here I've provided the website for our audience that they can take a look. The website will offer a wealth of information and resources. You can calculate an estimate of how much it will cost to go to college. You can input some of your personal income information into the calculation to kind of see, well, what kind of assistance will I receive? Now, this application, like I mentioned, has to be submitted every year. And depending on when you're planning to attend college, so for those of you that have just graduated, you should have already submitted your FAFSA application. So the priority deadline for the state of California was May 2nd, 2024. So here we are, May 30th. If you didn't submit it, that doesn't mean you're not eligible. It just means you didn't hit the priority deadline, which could mean missing out on certain grants. Financial aid is all based on deadlines. So if you miss a deadline, even if you qualify for that money, you'll miss out on it because it wasn't submitted. Now, like I said, California set the priority deadline as May 2nd. But if you are only looking to receive aid from the federal government, you can submit that through June 30th. Now, for those of you joining us that maybe are a senior in high school, this coming fall, you'll be looking to submit your FAFSA for next college year, which would be in 2025. And you would want to make sure that you submit that application by March 2nd. So it's always important to check those deadlines. The previous website that I shared with you guys will have a link to state deadlines. So if you're planning to attend out of state to another university, you may want to check what those deadlines are for that particular state. But the information I'm sharing is for those of you that are going to stay here in California and attend college here. Now, what are some of the other areas that that we get a lot of questions about? And that'll be the difference between the type of financial aid that you can get. So people hear the term financial aid and say, oh, this is all free money. It's free money. Not necessarily, because this will be based on the type of aid that you'll receive. The one that is free money is determined grants. Grants will come from the federal government, they can come from the state government, they can come from the university you're attending. So depending on what your eligibility will be, you can receive those. And when you receive a grant, you'll utilize it to pay for those college expenses, and you don't have to pay that back. That is money that is being given to you as a student to help you pay for those expenses in college. Scholarships is another type of free money. A scholarship, though, will sometimes require you to have submitted a FAFSA, but there's an additional application that you'll have to submit. Typically, scholarships are what is considered merit aid. Merit meaning that you had to earn this scholarship. How do you earn a scholarship? So there's a variety of scholarships. There could be an athletic scholarship. The way you earn that athletic scholarship is because you participated in a sport, perhaps in high school. You're now being accepted into a university in which they want you to play a sport. So they'll give you a athletic scholarship so that you can offset some of those costs to attend that scholarship. Another type of
I'm sorry,
scholarship.
Diana, sorry, just wanted to add, our audience is made up of parents and grandparents.
Okay.
So we don't have any students with us today. So
Okay.
it's our audience is really just like grandparents. You talked about grants and scholarships. Is this something that we can help like our grandkids apply for that? For example, my grandson just graduated from high school and grants, or is this something that I can help him
Yes.
submit?
Thank you, Patricia. That is a very good point. Scholarships is actually one of the areas that as parents and grandparents, you can help out. How? Keep your ears open. I'm sure you hear about scholarships all the time. It could be in your local news. There could be an ad about a scholarship program. You may participate in a community organization that offers scholarships. You may have been a union member. Most unions will offer scholarships to their dependent children. So there's always just kind of taking down information as to where to apply for that scholarship and passing that information on to your child or grandchild, niece, nephew, right? Because, we could be aunts here on this call as well. So scholarships will come from private companies. We have like the Gate Millennials, Coca-Cola will have big scholarships. Those tend to be a nationwide search. But the more localized scholarships, like I mentioned, such as a union, your job, some jobs will offer scholarship opportunities. And maybe this is something you had never paid attention to before, but you can definitely check in within your departments. If you work for a larger organization, you can check with an HR office and see if they offer. If you're part of a union, check with your union and see if they offer. I know that LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District, my mother was a cafeteria worker when I was in college, and her union provided me a scholarship. I applied, but one of the criterias was that a parent had to be a union member. So that was part of the criteria. So you definitely could do that. Now, grants typically will be based on that application, the FAFSA that I mentioned. So just helping your student fill out that application will be how you can assist. Now, what if once you've submitted this FAFSA, you don't qualify for these grants or you didn't submit a scholarship? There's two other types of programs available through the FAFSA. That's a federal student loan. And if we have time, I do have a slide to kind of show the differences between the interest rates of these student loans. And so you may say, well, that's a loan. I have to pay that money back. But the benefit to these federal loans is there is some benefits, such as low interest. The loan is under the student's name, so there won't be a credit check. There's no credit score, credit history that a student will need to have to gain access to this loan. There is a lot of repayment plans. Something that was very, very visible in the news has been loan forgiveness. Now, currently, the government's looking to just do a loan forgiveness flat out to students, but there's other loan forgiveness programs that have existed and continue to exist. If you work in low income areas of your job, and after you make certain payments, whatever remaining of your loan will be forgiven. If you don't have high earnings in the job that you now have post your degree, you can have income driven repayments, meaning that your payment plan will be lower than, say, a private loan that you would get at a bank. Those typically will be set amounts. Interest rates will be, somewhat higher than a federal student loan. So these are just some of the benefits to student loans that you can definitely look into. Now, yes, borrow wisely. This is money that once you graduate, you do have to pay back. So you don't want, and this is a way that as parents, as grandparents, you all have experience budgeting your money. You have experience taking out loans. You understand what an interest rate is and how that is calculated over time. So borrowing wisely and having those conversations is where you will be able to help your student through this process. Now, the last part is called the Work Study Award. This is something that not a lot of attention is given to, but this is a part-time job. Um, federal government provides participating colleges and universities with an amount of federal work study funding. Now, what the college's responsibility with this money is to recruit employers to provide jobs for students. But the employer doesn't have to pay the salary because the federal government is paying the salary through a federal work study award. So employers tend to seek out work study students because it's a cost savings to them. And students have an opportunity to work on campus. Most college work study programs have jobs on campus. They also do primarily community service. Jobs within the community. So off campus, if you're looking to do tutoring, if you want to work in an after school program, if you want to work at a nonprofit organization, each college campus has their own work study program. And so each jobs at depending at the university that your child will attend will have different job opportunities. And the other benefit to a work study job, as opposed to, let's say, a public, retail or fast food job, is that because these are jobs in mind that the student is a college student, flexibility between classes. Here at our campus, our students will come and work a couple of hours, then they head out to class. And then once they're done with their courses, they can come back and work a remainder of the hours. If they have a full load, let's say the entire day they have classes, well, that day they may not work and they'll have an alternative work schedule to the traditional Monday through Friday. All of our work study jobs are part-time. So we keep that in mind. We know that the research shows that students, the more they work, the graduation rates drop. So we want to keep them engaged in the field of employment, but we don't want to overwhelm them. We want to make sure that they have time to study. And this is where the name work study comes from, that it's a school work balance introduction while they're in college. And so again, these are funded by the federal government. So most college campuses will have this. And so how do you help your student? Again, Patricia, to your question, right? How, as a parent, as a grandparent, do I help? Well, you're familiar with resumes. You're familiar with interview process, because these are all jobs that the student will still have to go through the job application process. So you can help your student by guiding them through this process. Most college campuses and universities will have a student employment office, or some will refer to it as a career center. You may want to navigate the website, read a little bit more on what kind of jobs, what do they need to do. Typically, a college campus will have a job board that the student has to provide their profile. Part of that profile is writing a resume, maybe a cover letter. Things like that, you can help your student navigate this additional opportunity of financial aid.
Diana, sorry, before you move on, if you go back to the, I have a couple of questions, but first some housekeeping. For those who arrived late, you're hearing from Diana Medina. She's a financial aid counselor at Cal State University Northridge. I'm Patricia Perez, AARP California State President Emeritus. And I know that there's going to be a lot of information coming your way. Don't worry, because this session is being recorded. So later you'll be able to, go to our site and, view whatever, area you missed, or if you can't take notes that fast, you'll be able to view this recording again. But going back to this slide, Diana, lots of information. How do you figure which one is the right one for you? I mean, is there somebody to help either parents or students on campus, or is that all up to us as parents and grandparents to figure out, between all of these? And then, of course, hopefully you'll cover also in your presentation if getting a scholarship will affect your grant, or, what money you get will affect the others. So how do you figure out which one is the right one for you?
Thank you, Patricia. A great question. So the great part about financial aid is that there is no guesswork. What happens when you submit your FAFSA application, the school will receive this application, And the job of the financial aid offices is to put a financial aid package together for each individual student. And we'll talk about what the awarding process looks like. And so a student will receive what is called an award letter. This award letter will include grants, loans, and in some cases, a work study program. If for any reason you do not see a grant or a loan or a work study as part of this financial aid award letter, you could always contact the financial aid office and inquire about these options. And that's again where the parents and the grandparents come in, right? Let's take a look at your financial aid award letter. Let's see what you received. How much did you receive? Is this going to cover tuition? Is there enough money here for books? Are we going to have to seek out loans? There is student loans, but there's also parent loans available. So these are the conversations around budgeting, right? So let's budget for college is where the parents, because to be honest, our students, they probably have not had to worry about budgets. Parents are taking care of rent, mortgage, groceries. Most of our students are now in public high schools. There is no tuition involved. Most schools will provide um, the textbooks for the students. If anything, pens, pencils, notebooks is probably the extent of where our expenses go towards paying for school. In college, that is not the case. Once you go to college, just for simply registering, you have to pay tuition. Then there is the books involved. So these are the areas where, as a parent, we can take a look and let's see, well, how much are the expenses when you go to college? And they can talk about that. But again, the guesswork is not there. The only additional application you would need to submit is for scholarships. Scholarships do typically have a separate application. Some campuses have made the scholarship process a lot simpler. They will utilize the FAFSA to already consider you for scholarships. So again, these are the four major types of aid. If you don't see it on your financial aid award letter, make sure that you talk to the financial aid office at the college that your son, daughter, granddaughter will be attending and ask those questions. How do we apply for scholarships? And now is the time to ask those questions if they're attending in the fall. If you have a child that will be attending next year, well, it's not ever too early to start asking this question. Start exploring. What college campuses are you thinking of applying? Let's find out what their scholarship program looks like at that campus. Because these are private funding, some campuses may receive more donations than other from, entrepreneurs that want to give back to their alma mater. So this is something they can take a look at. So
Okay, thank you. And also reminder to those watching to please submit your questions in the chat box. If you're watching on YouTube Live, please submit your questions in the comments. And now back to you.
thank you, Patricia. So as we were talking about, are there other forms that students need to fill out besides the FAFSA? So typically the FAFSA is the one application that embodies it all. But again, it depends on the campus. So don't rely on just that one application. Check with the college campus. Some campuses will require an additional financial aid application called the CSS profile. The difference between these two, it's the calculation to determine the type of aid that the student will qualify. One of the local universities that uses the CSS profile is the University of Southern California, USC. So this is something that you can take a look and see what it is. The questions are very similar, um, but it is to gain access to that institutional money that they have. Whereas the FAFSA, you're looking for more government assistance from the federal or the state level. Now, for those of you that are here in the state of California, who have grandchildren, children, who are perhaps undocumented. There is assistance in the state of California for our undocumented population. There is specific criteria that students will need to meet. Part of that is that they need to have attended a California high school. They need to be attending a California university. There is more specific criteria for that, but there is that alternative. So typically our undocumented population will not have access to federal aid. So the FAFSA typically is not an application that they'll be eligible to submit based on their citizenship status. So the California Dream Act, which is a California financial aid application, is an alternative for some of these for our students in this population. But again, as I've continued to mention throughout the presentation, you need to check with the University Financial Aid Office. Check their websites is always one of the best places to start, and see if there's any additional forms that you may require to submit to get access to financial aid. A lot of times, if you haven't received that financial aid award letter and you're like, well, it's time, we should have received, this is where you want to contact. So it is a partnership when it comes to funding a college education between parent, student, and the university. So you always want to not wait around for an answer to come. If you have a question, reach out to the college campus. We have very trained friendly staff that is always available to answer your questions. If you need assistance in a different language, ask. Have your student or grandchild call and say, hey, do you have interpretation in a language? Here at California State Northridge, we have even sign language interpreters. We have one of the largest center on national deafness. There is an actual degree that we have that we offer our students here, and so sign language interpretation is very common on our campus. So again, these are things that you want to check with the financial aid offices and say, hey, we submitted our application. Are there any additional documents or applications that you need from us to receive assistance? Does your scholarship process require an additional application? Is there a form? Is there a portal? Is there a website? Those are all questions you can help your student when navigating the application process. Patricia, is there any questions? And it wouldn't be a Zoom without the mute button.
Yes, it's just, I'll let you continue, but I do have, some questions, about just general financial aid.
Okay, perfect. So how is the financial aid determined? What is this? So this is the very simple formula that I wanted to share with all of our families. It is the cost of attendance minus the student aid index equals the financial need. Financial need is the amount that the universities will try and package a student to help them pay for college. Well, what is the cost of attendance? The cost of attendance is the retail price to attend a college. So, what are some of those areas that are included in the cost of attendance? Tuition, books, Are they going to be living in the dorms? So it would be housing, transportation. Um, every college campus is required to have what it costs to attend their university. So again, this is where you will seek out that specific campus financial aid website and ask, what is the cost of attendance to attend this university? It varies. As many of you here in California know, housing from San Diego to Humboldt to Sacramento to San Francisco to Los Angeles will vary very dramatically. So this cost of attendance takes that into account because the dorms will cost differently. Now, if you're attending a community college versus a California State College to a University of California, that the tuition will vary as well. If you're attending a private college, the tuition amount will vary. So you want to take a look at what that cost of attendance is. And as Patricia mentioned at the beginning, these costs to attend college can vary from, very modest 20,000 a year to one of the higher, which could be 65,000 a year. And this is annual. So if the student is attending a 4-year college, multiply that by 4. Now, what is the student aid index? Well, this is where the FAFSA comes in. That application that I mentioned to you guys, when you submit that application, the purpose of it is it collects the information from the families, income, how many are in the family, is there student, is there assets, is there investments, what all the questions that are asked to then there's a calculation that is utilized to then determine what the student aid index will be. And so how do you know what the student aid index is? You will look at the student aid summary report. So once the FAFSA is submitted, a student will receive a summary report in which it'll indicate what their student aid index is. So you will have the tools to make that determination. If the college you're attending has a cost of 65,000 and your student aid report, your student aid index is, let's say, 2,000, well, your financial need will be 65,000, 63,000. Sorry for that. My math failed me there, but it'll be that. And so then that particular financial aid office will try and package the student with as much aid as they can to attain that financial need. And so that is it's a very simple formula. And so this is a way that you can take a look and assist your student in their budgeting. Well, let's make sure that you have enough money to pay the expenses that you need. Um, now,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Diana, before you go into the next slide, a question is, so students need to know what college they're going to attend before applying for financial aid. So it's not the opposite that you apply for financial aid and then you figure out, what you can afford to attend. You have to figure out, right? You apply and then you figure out what college and then.
Yes. And the beauty, you don't have to know exactly what college you're going to go to. So in the college application process, most students typically will apply to a minimum of 10 colleges. The FAFSA application actually has room for you to list 20 colleges on there. So you don't have to make a decision as to which college you're attending. On that FAFSA application, you will submit the list of colleges that you're intending to apply, and those colleges will receive your application, will then determine what your need, and they will offer you a financial aid package. Most colleges have a intent to register deadline for freshmen. Our campus has June 2nd this year as that deadline. By then, most students have received their financial aid packages from the various colleges they applied and were accepted to. And then they can make a decision on what college they'll attend, because maybe one college offers more aid than the other. Maybe one college will already package them with scholarships without having to submit an additional application. Some colleges may package the student with the work study program, may already have jobs lined up for them. So that financial aid award is a good place to help you make that decision.
Another question is for those grandparents, for example, that they early on, created a college fund, a 529 for their grandkids, or gave them a gift of money on high school graduation. Is that going to impact the students, student index, what you were talking about?
Great question. So the 529 plan, whose name is it under? Is it under the name of the grandparent, the parent, or the student? Will depend on whether that information needs to be included in the student FAFSA application. If it's under the student's name, then that will be going under the student's asset. If it's the parent, it may go under the parent. So typically, if the owner of that 529 is the grandparent, that there might be a way that that is not included on the FAFSA. Now, the second part of your question is bank accounts, right? So if a student is receiving graduation gifts at the time that you're submitting your FAFSA application, there is a question that asks for the student's savings, checking, or cash at the time of application. And so depending on, how much money is in their savings account is what they'll have to enter into the FAFSA, and that is part of that calculation for the student aid index. As you can see in the slide here, the assets, right? This is one of the areas. Now, real estate, unless you have it for investment purposes, so like rental properties will be part of assets. If you have a business, again, it'll be included. There is a calculation for you to determine what the amount that you'll be entering on the FAFSA will be. And so you can take a look at those specific areas if that applies to you as a family. Now, the FAFSA will have a lot of self-help on the online form. So when you get to that section of income and assets and you feel like, well, does this apply to me or my student? There is like a little help pop-up windows on the side that you can click and read through the help information to determine, is this something that I need to report on this FAFSA? And I'll pause there in case we have anything else.
Just reminder to anybody watching, if you have any questions, this is your opportunity. If you have if you're a parent or grandparent and want to help, a child go to college, please, this is your chance to ask. And I know, Diana, that many students self-eliminate. They hear that college is expensive and they self-eliminate, right, from applying for certain universities or colleges, instead go community college or, decide to, work and go part-time. But this is wonderful information that we can share, that as, parents and grandparents, we can share with them to let them know that college is attainable.
And going back to that the question that I said, the intent to register. Some colleges will have an application fee to apply for their college, others won't. But you don't have to, if you get accepted to a university, you're not mandated to attend.
Mm.
Unforeseen things happen all the time. So this is why you submit this application early on so that you can get packaged early on so that then you can have options, right? Take a look at all the colleges. What is the type of money being offered to you, so that you can make a decision. um, if we don't have any new questions, I do have a couple of other slides to talk a little bit more about the student loans, and what is available out there. Because again, a lot of our families may not get the free aid, but nonetheless, federal student loans is still a form of assistance for our students. As you can see, these are the interest rates for our student loans, our subsidized and our unsubsidized direct loans for the current year. We don't have the rates yet until July for the next academic year, but they hardly ever really fluctuate. So we anticipate that the rates will remain at the same, or slightly higher or slightly lower than what you currently see here. How do students apply for these loans? The FAFSA. So again, there you go. That is that one application. The student loans will be part of the student's award letter. They will see that they were offered student loans. Again, a loan is only an offer. The student will have to initiate accepting that student loan. So my advice is, again, that's where you have a conversation about budgeting. Do we need the student loan, or do you just want more money, right? Is this something that, in order for you to attend the college, that we'll have to take out? In some instances, students will be offered both a federal direct subsidized and an unsubsidized. The first year, students will be eligible to receive up to 5,500 in student loans. And let's say that's still not enough to cover housing. There is what is called a direct plus loan. This is a parent loan available to our parents. That particular loan is a separate application because it's to the parent. They will take a look at credit history for eligibility, but again, the loan is at a lower rate than most banking institutions. Now, you may say, but you know what? My bank actually offered me a really great interest rate, way lower than the federal loans you're showing me here. And that may very well be if you have an established banking institution that you've done banking, maybe you have business with them. They may offer you lower rates. They may offer you a much competitive offer when it comes to a private loan. And that's definitely something you can explore. Talk to your banking institution. If you are interested in learning more about like the different private loans that are out there for students, there is a nonprofit called FinAid, which is financialaid.org. If you go to their websites, they'll show you a list of the different type of private loans that are available, the interest rates, what their application process is. And again, their interest rates will vary, and then repayments will also vary in terms of how you go about paying back these loans. Another question you have, Patricia, and I'm going to move to this slide, which was, well, what is another added benefit to that federal loan that you've talked about? Okay, interest rates, still not sold on borrowing. I'd rather pay with a credit card. A lot of our families will do that mistake, and I call it a mistake. If you look at some of the interest rates for our credit cards, it is incredibly high. you have to immediately start paying those outstanding charges by the next month, or else, that interest rate will get to you. So that's one benefit on the student loans. But like I mentioned, when it comes time to pay these loans back, so typically this will happen once the student has graduated college. You can pay early. You don't have to wait. So grandparents, if you don't want to affect your grandchildren's bank accounts so that their FAFSA is affected by the savings that they have in there, maybe this is a gift you can give your grandchild. They can borrow a student loan, and maybe you can make early repayments to the student loan. There is no penalty for paying back early. Our subsidized loan is interest free while the student is in college. The subsidized loan does collect interest. So if you wanted to, if your grandchild says, "Hey, grandma, grandpa, I had to borrow a student loan, but if you can help me with some early payments to reduce the overall loan amount before I graduate," that is a great way to help them out as well. So it's never too late to help them out. Maybe you didn't set up that 529 plan, but this is somewhere where you can come back and help them pay off. But once the student graduates, if they're in a public service job, there are teachers, if they're going to be teaching in um, areas that are considered for low income students, there is a loan forgiveness amount. These are all benefits that the federal student loans would have, that most private student loans do not offer these type of perks when it comes to the repayment. And then eventually, there is the talk that complete student forgiveness could be another benefit that a lot of our private lender students will miss out on if that were ever to happen. But these are three of the repayment plans that are available, the programs that the federal government offers our students. Now, to
Yeah,
finish,
sorry.
okay.
I was just gonna say, what a fabulous idea, Diana, that, Christmas, birthdays, right? Instead of, gifts that they may not even like, give them cash so they can, start paying off some of their loans. That would be a fabulous idea for, parents and grandparents. And like you said, it's a great way not to affect their income by giving them, any kind of gift early.
Correct. Because that is a question on the FAFSA. Like I said, it's that savings or checking or cash even.
Yeah,
That's how the question is framed on the question on the FAFSA. So again, paying them off early will definitely benefit. What a great college gift that would be to any student,
yeah.
to graduate college debt free. So
Oh,
definitely
yeah,
is one idea.
yeah.
Now,
Sorry, and you also mentioned credit cards. Credit card companies are all over college campuses. They see us coming, and this is a great conversation for parents and grandparents to have with their children. It's never too early. Just financial management, letting them know about college opportunities and especially credit cards. Once you start getting into, huge debt, it's a difference between the loans that you're talking about and just credit card debt.
yes, Patricia, and not only for college expenses, as you said, college credit card companies are all over our campus. Our students have never been alone to manage their money before. And so the idea of being able to make a large purchase now without having to pay for it is very appealing to our student population. And some of them get into financial trouble early on. Sometimes this even means that they drop out of college because they now have large debts that they need to manage, And that's where, sometimes the work appeals to them. So having those conversations that, hey, you're borrowing now, but this has to be paid. Let's take a look at those interests. How do they affect? And I see it even with our parents, Patricia, that they do this all the time. They said, well, we only got offered loans. So we didn't want to take them out because the fear of the term loan,
Mhm.
right? So we used a credit card instead. And I say, do you mind sharing with me what your credit card interest is? And I'm going to tell you 15, 16, 20% interest rates is what's happening out there. And I say to them, well, here you had an option for a 5% interest rate. And even with your subsidized loan, the interest rate won't start to accrue until they graduate. What do you mean you don't want to
Mhm.
borrow? But it's because of the buzz, right? That you
Right.
hear on the news. College debt is at an all-time high. And yes, it is true, but that's because um, college is expensive, but also budgeting is one of the topics that doesn't get talked about enough. How to budget. Our students have to know that they're living on a student budget, right? Which is going to lead me into my last slide here, because budgeting is something that the students have not had to do. Is going back to my earlier comment about, well, who pays the rent? Some of the tips that I want to leave our audience with is, when you go grocery shopping, take your student with you. You parents will know who I'm talking to. You shop around. You go to this grocery store on Tuesday because they have the sale on tomatoes, and you go to the other grocery store because the milk is on sale over here. And you will shop around so that you can maximize your money based on the sale prices. You also will make a shopping list. Well, what are we going to have for dinner this week? And teaching that is something that is so invaluable. You're teaching them to manage their money even when it comes to grocery shopping. Another area is when they're looking for housing, if they're going to move away from home and they're going to live in the dorms, or maybe you're going to go apartment shopping because maybe they want to live off campus, maybe share an apartment with a couple of students. And so, you, as the parent or grandparent, let's take a look at that lease. How much are you being charged? The dorms. Okay, well, maybe what is the meal plan that you're looking for? Are you really going to be eating 40 meals during the semester? Maybe can we cut back on the meal plan, and maybe we can teach you how to cook um, and save a little bit of money there. For the students in high school now, so parents, encourage your child to take advanced placement courses. These are known as AP courses. There is an exam at the end of it, and if they pass this exam, most of these courses will get college credit. So this is one less class they have to take when they go to the university. Dual enrollment. There's a lot of community colleges now that offer courses to high school students, but they're college level courses. So you can knock these off before they even go to college. And a lot of times, because they are in high school, it is of no extra charge to the student. So these are ways that you can knock off, instead of having to pay for 5 semesters at a university. Maybe now you've cut it down to 4 semesters. And that could mean a savings of $10,000. So that's a way you can do that. For some students, community college may be another way to go about the college route. Start off at a community college. These tend to be less expensive. They offer a wide variety of programs. And it's typically a 2-year program that then you can transfer out to the university. And instead of having the 4 years of the university cost, you can reduce that down to 2 years. Again, the working part-time is a way to manage and reduce the college fees. And then the budget. It's let's not go to the movies. Let's instead read book. Let's find free entertainment opportunities. College campuses offer so much free entertainment for our students. Have them get involved. We here at our campus are going to start offering summer movie nights. They bring out a big screen, they lay it out on our lawn, they'll have food trucks. You can picnic, come and watch a movie. We have free concerts for our students. We have a games room, we have a lot of recreational activities, so that they don't think that they have to go and spend the thousands of dollars on a Coachella, a concert weekend, right? So these are the areas of expertise of our audience. You have the life experience of budgeting. You know where you can save money and pass those down to your student, as these are usually areas that don't get taught at school, right?
Perfect. And that's where we come in as parents and as grandparents, is sharing our life lessons. We know how to budget, like you were saying. We know how, to save. So these are excellent points. Diana, quickly, just give us some of the resources and websites that you shared. For example, where to get the FAFSA, deadlines and any information regarding loans, or where were some of the websites? There it is.
And if we want to share that on chat.
Yeah, on the studentaid.gov would be great, right? The studentaid.gov. And then what was the other one? There it is, studentaid.gov. And then the other one regarding I believe you have one regarding loans,
Yes.
financialaid.org/loans. So perfect. Thank you so much, Dana. You have been just a wealth of information. Thank you so much on behalf of, all our students. And I want to, tell our audience that, of course, they can also visit us online for financial